Forrester defines customer experience as how customers perceive their interactions with an organization. I think that when you're building a system for understanding and proactively managing your customer experience, there are a variety of different pieces of information that you need. And because of the way we define customer experience at Forrester, the way I defined it earlier as how customers perceive their interactions with a firm, we believe that the core of any sort of customer experience quality measurement program is measures of those perceptions. But we absolutely need additional information to really understand what caused those perceptions to be what they are. And analytics offer an enormous wealth of information to help us understand that, to diagnose what are the events that happen that may have led a customer to feel that way. What are events that may be common among customers who felt extremely positive or extremely negative. They provide a critical layer of understanding of the drivers of those perceptions that allow us to create the connections between what happened during an interaction, how a customer felt about it, and then ultimately the last piece of the puzzle is what they did as a result. So the analytics come into play in that last piece because we can track not only what happened during an interaction, but also what happened after it. And as a result of the events and their perception of those events, did they do certain things more, do certain things less? What were the outcomes that ultimately affect the financial health of the business? And so analytics are really a critical part of that diagnostic system in those two ends of what surrounds the perceptions. The highest level of customer experience that you have to measure is the end-to-end experience with a company, right? The sum total of every interaction I've ever had with that company. At the lowest level, you have specific interactions, a visit to the website, a visit to the store or a branch, a call into the call center. But there's this middle level of experience that is most often the level at which customers think. So take, for example, I was on a business trip yesterday. That business trip was an experience in my mind. Even one of the flights that I took to get there and back, each of those flights was an experience. And that was made up of booking the trip, getting to the airport, printing my boarding pass before I left the house, what happened at the airport on the flight. And so when we think about measuring customer experience, we sometimes have to take a step back and think about what is the unit of experience that a customer thinks about as a whole. Because if we don't, we might miss important factors about that cross-channel experience that aren't going to show up when we measure just those individual pieces. And I think one of the challenges that companies face in measuring customer experience across channels is, in addition to just being able to connect up which of those interactions all belong to that same experience with that same customer, thinking about and remembering to measure things that exist between those interactions and across that set of interactions that make up an experience in the customer's mind. That's not something that a lot of companies think about and integrate into their measurement systems, and it can sometimes cause them to miss out on critical information that is formulating customers' perceptions but isn't necessarily getting picked up by the systems that we've put in place to measure. When we ask people what their challenges are in measuring and tracking customer experience, the ability to track experiences across channels is one of the most commonly cited challenges. So it is something that people struggle with quite a bit. One of the ways that companies have succeeded in doing that is creating some sort of an identifier for the customer that follows them across all of their interactions. And in some businesses that's inherent, right? If you are an organization that has a loyalty card, it's going to be easier to do that for your loyalty card members. If you are a membership-based organization where people just expect to have to provide their member number every time they go to interact with you, that makes that connection significantly easier. Other people are using more survey-oriented mechanisms. So instead of trying to track each disparate interaction and then connect them together around a certain customer, they're simply saying to someone, tell us about the interactions that you've had with our company. Have you used our website? Have you talked to us on the phone? So it may not be the specific interaction, but they can ask someone a little bit about what that experience was and then ask questions for the types of interactions that they had across a particular period of time. I think other companies are trying to make the connection as best they can, but it remains a challenge either from a technology perspective if they simply don't have a way to tell that this was all the same customer, and sometimes from a systems perspective, even if they have the information to be able to do that, getting the systems connected in such a way that they can bring that together across silos is sometimes both a political challenge as well as a technical challenge.